Welcome back, everybody, to the Fortune Roots podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Couture, and this is episode 11. This week's guest I have with me, Devin Soto. Devin is one of the owners of Tactical Cowboy Training Solutions, and a little background on Devin. He served 5 years as an Army Ranger, had a few deployments overseas. He has a degree in human physiology, and he also has about 3 years of security consultant abroad. And now he's owned his company, Tactical Cowboy Training Solutions, for about 2 years. And what that is basically, it's everything and anything with firearms and tactics and mentorship, really. Devin brings a different approach than most people, and his crew in general does, of being more positive outlook and not so much drill sergeant in your face for people, because he wants it to be a fun experience for people who are maybe first-time shooters and don't really know what's going on and can be intimidating. So he brings a really positive attitude, and I think that shows very well in this episode. You'll see as we get to know him more. And even just his story of his life as he goes through wasn't easy and it was definitely very different than most people would probably be able to relate to. I'm sure there are people that will. And knowing Devin and talking with him, you would never guess the hardships that he went through as a young man, and not really having a mother in the picture growing up, when he lost his father, and those kind of things just aren't easy. But talking to him, he's just got a great outlook on life, super positive, and I really learned a lot. Devin was really fun to talk to. We could have just kept going and going and going, but definitely going to have him back on for another episode, because there's so much information and just knowledge that he has on this realm of fitness and tactical training, and really just being prepared. And one of the things we talk about quite a bit too on this podcast is just mindset, kind of like last week's with John Barklow, that you just got to have a very strong mindset and to persevere and push through things that might be a little difficult. But without further ado, I will allow you guys to sit down, enjoy this podcast with Devin Soto, and I'll see you at the end. Welcome back, everybody, to the Forging Roots podcast. I have with me today Devin from Tactical Cowboy Training Solutions. Devin, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the people that might not know?
How's it going, everybody? My name is Devin Soto. As Matt just said, I run a company called Tactical Cowboy Training Solutions. We're based out of Spanish Fork, Utah, and we provide everything from basic pistol and rifle marksmanship, gun safety stuff for kids, all the way up until, like this last weekend, we had a 2-day, 16-hour CQB course that we had civilians, ex-military, and local law enforcement partake in. So yeah, we do it all. And also, I'm just a freedom-loving American, and seems like Matt is the same way, so that's how we met up.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. So why don't you kind of go back even further than that? So where are you from originally? And I know from talking with you that you also served as an Army Ranger. What kind of give me that path from, growing up to getting to that point?
All right, we're getting into it. I like it.
Getting into
Any questions you have, you just interject them in there.
All right.
So yeah, I grew up, born in 1992 in a small town in Illinois called Mendota. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's a bit south of you.
Yeah, a little bit south, but I've not heard of it.
Everyone's going to say, is that near Chicago? No, not near Chicago, about 3 hours away. But yeah, middle of the state, Illinois, small farming town.
Okay.
And yeah, I grew up with my father. I never knew my mother. I guess I did when I was super young, but like she kind of became out of the picture, I think, around when I was 1 year old. So I grew up with my father and my stepmom and my brother, and a huge influence from my grandparents. Like literally, me and my dad's house was, I think, 4 blocks away from my grandparents' house.
Okay. Yeah, super close.
Oh yeah, everybody's close. Also in our town, all my aunts and uncles but one set still live in our small town, Mendota. And also all my cousins and everything, and my brother and my grandparents. So I had a great little family unit there in Mendota. Yep. So nice. Small farming town, really awesome. Grew up there. When I was, about 16 years old, my dad ended up passing away from in the middle of the night. So that wasn't great,
Mm.
obviously.
Yeah.
No big deal though. I'm not like upset about it or anything. Everything happens for a reason, right?
Yep.
So then at that point, I ended up living with my grandparents full time. And I ended up getting really into exercise, physical fitness, that kind of stuff. So that became
Hmm.
one of my main driving forces in my life. And then I met who I didn't know at the time, but he was an Army recruiter named Sergeant Martin, Dave Martin, super awesome guy.
Okay.
If you live in the Illinois Valley, you might have met him. But he became a friend of mine at the local YMCA where I went to work out all the time. And I never knew I knew him for like a year, never knew he was a recruiter. And one
Okay.
day he's like, man, you're always pushing yourself. You should be an Army Ranger. And I was like, I had no idea what that was.
Right.
So kind of similar to you, where my family were very pro-American, pro all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But I never really been into firearms or anything like that. But we were super pro military, where my grandfather served in the Korean War. And
Okay.
as I told you, like my grandparents were a huge influence in my life. So,
Hmm.
I had that, military background. So I was really into that. And then this guy, Dave Martin, brought it up to me. Hey, you should try to be an Army Ranger. And I was like, what is that? So then he sent me some stuff to look into it.
Yep.
And then
Yep.
of course he got Black Hawk Down. Everybody's seen that.
Classic.
So I combined Black Hawk Down with everything he showed me, and I was like, man, I really should do this.
Hmm.
So this is when I was about 18 years old, and I was signed up for community college to
Okay.
pursue the physical fitness type stuff. And I ended up not doing that. I don't know whatever happened to that. I was signed up for classes and everything, and I just never showed up. I went into the military instead.
There you go. Nice.
But
Nice.
so yeah, Dave Martin, super awesome guy. He set me up for success. I don't know if you're familiar, but he set me up with an option 40 contract to go into the Army, which
Okay.
makes it specifically so if you meet the standards, you will go to Ranger selection.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
No.
he set me up pretty much for success from day one. So, yep, went in on January 11th, 2011. Yeah, January 11th, 2011. Got shipped off to basic, and that was a pretty interesting experience. I'd only been on a plane one time my entire life.
Okay. So that
Oh
was
yeah,
jumping right into it then.
yeah, small town Illinois kid. Now I'm out there, like, and we're at I guess you could say the staging area for guys to go
Hmm.
out in Chicago. So I'm like, holy cow, I'm like in Chicago,
In the
and then we
city.
get shipped off. And yeah, basic training was interesting. It was a really good wake up call, but just stuck my head down and powered through all of it. And I was blessed enough. I mean, you'll see with my whole story throughout my entire life, through before military, and after, I've always had like really good, strong influences. And the next
Mhm.
one I'm going to bring up is my drill sergeant, Drill
Okay.
Sergeant Holland. Super hard on us, but also super awesome guy. Long story short, basic training went great. Then I went to airborne school, did all that. That was super cool. Then I got to Ranger selection, and that was a kick in the teeth, that's for sure.
I'm gonna say that must be a. What is the difference between doing you got your basic and that's usually like for me because since I've never gone through all this stuff, you've got like your typical like movie idea of in your face yelling, get down there, do your push, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. How is that versus actual like going to Ranger school? Because I feel like that's just a totally doing any special forces, special operations training in school in general, whether or not you complete and pass it, is got to be way different.
Yeah, so you're saying how is basic different than Ranger selection?
Yes. Yeah. As
Yeah.
far as
So
is it physically more demanding or is it more of a mental game when it gets to that point?
so I would just say it's both. It's both more physically and mentally demanding over basic training.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I mean, looking back on it, I could say basic training wasn't that tough. And I don't know if you've talked to guys, funny people say, oh yeah, it wasn't that tough. But that being said, during it didn't feel that easy. You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, Ranger selection was very tough. So nowadays it's called RASP, Ranger Assessment Selection Program, and it's an 8-week course.
Okay.
So yeah, got there, and funny story actually about that. So I get done with airborne school, and I'm starting. RASP. I'm supposed to start in like 3 weeks. I'm supposed to start during the next class.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you have like a certain packing list of stuff they want you to have, pen, paper, map markers, protractor, all this stuff that they want you to have to take RASP, compasses, stuff like that. So they're like, yep, you guys are starting in 3 weeks. So you're going to be in this holding area where basically we're going to PT. You know what I mean by PT?
No.
PT is like working out.
Oh, just
Physical
working out.
training.
Okay, physical
So we're
training.
gonna
Gotcha.
we're gonna PT you guys, get you ready. So because
Yep.
you got to do like a 5-mile run, a 12-mile ruck, and PT test, all sorts of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like, yeah, you're starting in 3 weeks. I'm like, all right, sweet. So I have some time to adjust after airborne school and all that. And then we it's in the middle of the night, like the next RASP class is starting that morning. Long
Mm-hmm.
story short, the RASP cadre come into our little barracks area. It's like 2 a.m. They wake us all up. They're like, I guess something changed with whoever was going to go. So now we were going that day.
Nice.
So that was pretty fun. So it was like, get up, you're going to RASP right now. And then I was like, I don't have anything. So yeah,
Oh
they gave
no.
us like a leeway where they would help us go get the stuff during the first 3 weeks that we needed.
Yeah.
But long story short, I got put into it and it was tough. It was very, very, very physically demanding. And
Mm.
I was never a good runner. And there's a lot of running. So yeah, that
Okay.
was always the toughest part for me. And you're running everywhere. And it's nonstop, go, go, go. They're putting you to the physical test at all times.
Mm-hmm.
While at the same time, they're doing simple mental tests, but you have to execute them to
Yep.
then move on. Simple stuff like programming a radio or Ranger history or, map reading and stuff like that. But
Okay.
now you're trying to do it a little more advanced level than you did at basic training under a lot more physical stress. And then, of
Mm-hmm.
course, they're limiting your sleep. Also,
Yeah.
yeah, they're just
What?
increasing the stress factor in any way they can.
So, what is the success rate on the Ranger schooling? Is it something that a lot of guys that sign up for are able to complete, or no?
So I just want to get it real quick. You keep
Yep.
saying Ranger school, and that's actually a completely different thing.
Oh, okay.
I just don't want people listening to get
Yeah.
confused.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So like
No.
Ranger
Correct me.
assessment and selection program, which I'm talking about, is to get into the 75th Ranger Regiment or 1st, 2nd, or 3rd Ranger Battalion, which is the actual special operations unit.
Okay.
And there is Ranger school, which is separate, which everybody goes to as well. But that's separate, and that's another 8-week course. But it's well, I guess it could be longer. It depends on if you pass stuff or not. But long story short, it's another 2 months, and it's for everybody. So it's Ranger Battalion dudes go there, a lot of officers go there, National Guard guys go there. Anybody can
Okay.
go. Navy SEALs, Marines. I mean,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
anybody can go there. So it's a little bit different, but still similar stuff. But yeah.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yes. Thanks for the clarification. Yeah. This
No
is
worries. I know some people listening would be like, he keeps saying
Be
that,
like,
but
why
then
is
he's
he
talking
doing
about
that?
something else.
Yes. If I say something wrong, please correct me.
But yeah, sorry, get back to your question. No, I said
Yeah.
that, but now I forgot what you asked me.
So, what is the success rate,
Oh
and
yeah.
what do you think is the thing that makes the difference in the guys that do make it versus don't?
So this is the success rate. I don't know an exact percentage, but I would probably say it's 50% ish. It's got to be something like
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
Because I remember a lot of dudes that I thought were whatever you want to think of them, hardcore or really awesome
Mhm.
guys. They ended up dropping out. And I think it's all about the mental aspect for sure.
Mhm.
Because there's guys that would be PT studs, meaning they're physical studs, but
Yep.
they just can't handle the mental stress of it. Because, like I said, not only are they screwing with you physically, but they're messing with your food,
Mhm.
messing with your sleep, and they're making you try to accomplish tasks that are a mental struggle, which maybe if
Absolutely.
you weren't physically stressed, it might not be too tough, but they're adding it on top. You know what I mean?
Right.
I would say
Absolutely.
50-50. Then I would say the difference maker is just the mental aspect.
Okay. And so that's one thing I know Jack Carr, which book right
Yeah.
there, he talks about on his podcast, Danger Close, saying like going through uh oh my gosh, Bud's
Yeah,
class,
yeah, yeah.
and saying when somebody would fail, like almost getting that sense of, yes, the program's working, like I forget exactly how he says it, but basically like sucking their energy of like the people that would fail, and like that
Oh
would
yeah.
motivate him more. Is that something that you agree with, that seeing the
So
people fail, it's like, sweet, the program is working? Because you obviously don't want guys to slip by. You want
yeah.
people with you that are going to be able to complete the task.
Yes, so I totally think that way now. But now I've had a lot of different experiences and I'm 30 years old. So
Mm-hmm.
being 19 when I did it, actually, so it was tough for me mentally seeing all those guys I went through like basic and airborne and all this stuff with.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing them fail actually was made it tougher for me. Because
Okay.
every time one of your buddies, because you get put in like squads kind of,
Yep.
and every time one of your buddies drops out, or either he drops out or he can't pass a task, whether it's physical or mental or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like, damn, there goes John,
Yep.
there's another guy down, and it kind of like beats you down. But I think if I was going now as more of an adult,
Yep.
I would be more along those lines. But it was a little bit different for me going through as a kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Because when I listened to him and other guys that like Andy Stump on
Mhm.
his podcast, and them saying that, I'm just like, for me not going through it or understanding, I'm like, okay, I can kind of see what they're getting, because it's, you want those guys, but at the same time, like you said, I was like, well, could be your buddy that you've been training with since high school going through it, and then you guys got to this point and then doing it. So interesting, because you're the first person that I've actually heard that said, looking back at it, yes, but I've never heard somebody actually admit, like, during it, not quite, not didn't have the, not necessarily the understanding. So that's interesting.
Yeah. In my RASP class, our squad, because they link you up kind of by squads, I guess you could say. Just I don't remember exactly how many guys it was, but it's by your
Mm-hmm.
last name. So they're like,
Okay.
they got 100 guys, the first 10, A through whatever, they go here and here and here.
Mm-hmm.
And my squad was a fair amount of guys that I went through basic with. And I was very young, and a lot of these guys were older than me. So I kind of looked up to them.
Yep.
And they were kind of, I guess you could say, mentors to me or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, how old are you?
I'm 23.
Yeah, let's be real. 23 versus 19, that's a big difference.
There's a lot of a difference between 19-year-old and
Yeah.
23.
And so a lot of these guys were, maybe my age now, like 30. And some of them
Mm-hmm.
had prior military experience and stuff like that. And if they didn't have prior military experience, it was even just prior world experience.
Yeah.
I was just a kid. So our little unit or whatever, we really kind of like fed off each other, and we were really, really close.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then our whole platoon too. So then when somebody got dropped out, it was like, oh man. And I've even like I was of course very driven to get
Mm-hmm.
the mission done, and the mission being passing.
Yep.
I was really driven because first off, I had to set in my mind, this is what I want to do. This is why I joined the military.
Mm-hmm.
And, coming from a small town, so many people in my small town knew that's what I was doing. So you
Mm.
don't want to like come back
Everybody in a
home.
small town knows everything. So you come back, they'll all find out.
Yeah, you don't
Absolutely.
want to be like, oh yeah. And I'm sure you've heard it, or maybe you have or haven't, but I know plenty of guys that's like, oh yeah, my cousin, he was going to go through buds, but then he didn't make it. And
Mm-hmm.
not that there's anything wrong with that, but I didn't want that like
Yeah.
label to be put on me, because it's not cool.
Yeah. No, it's like
Fun,
I
but it
was
hurt.
almost, or tried to be, and that's definitely got to sit with some guys. Like,
Oh, I'm sure. I can
like,
only imagine.
yeah, for sure. So you went from that, then kind of keep going. What happens after that
All right.
assessment?
So graduated. So I went, a little timeline, straight into basic training, airborne, and then RASP, no breaks, which was actually kind of a blessing, because then you don't get enough time to decompress and
Mm-hmm.
think, man, should I really be doing this? This shit sucks. You know what I
Yep.
mean? You don't get time to think that, because you just go, 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 go.
Right.
So went in January 2011, graduated RASP. So graduated Ranger selection July or August 2011. So you could say it's a very
Okay.
fast timeline.
Yep.
And then I went to 2nd Ranger Battalion, which is at Fort Lewis, Washington State.
Okay.
I got to 2nd Battalion when my whole entire platoon was on leave, meaning they got to go home and stuff, visit family for 2 weeks right before deployment.
Okay.
So I was there, basically a new guy without my platoon there. So I had I was kind of just in processing that kind of stuff. Platoon gets there, I meet everybody, we do training, and then within another few weeks, overseas in Afghanistan.
Okay, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
fast
so
timeline.
fast track, just getting to it.
Yep, and then did that 4-month deployment, which was really awesome. Learned a lot of stuff. Got in trouble a lot being a brand new guy, of course. But yeah, so within my first year in the military, I got to do basic training, airborne, RASP, and my first deployment with my unit all in the first year. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So what you went to Afghanistan. I think when we were talking, you said you ended up doing 12 deployments total. Is that correct?
No, so yeah, but in the military, I got to go overseas 4 times. Yeah, so I got to do 4 deployments
Okay.
in the military. Yep.
Okay.
So
So
that was
what
good. So about
yeah,
one every year, kind of, when I
one
was.
every year. Okay. And so are you still currently in or you're out now?
No, so now I'm doing the private contractor gig. So now I still get to go different places abroad, but it's not through the military, of course. But yeah, so
Okay.
that's where that. So I've gotten to go abroad on, work trips or military stuff like 12 times now. So
Okay, sweet.
yeah, pretty fortunate in that aspect.
Yeah, and were all of the times that you were when you were in service, was it all always Afghanistan or did you go other places too?
Always Afghanistan. Yep.
Afghanistan.
Yep.
How had seeing everything that happened a couple months ago, how has that been with you or do you
Oh,
have any thoughts on that you'd
you
like to
mean like
share?
the pullout?
The pullout, how was
Yeah.
that? Because I know a lot of people were very mixed emotions on being serving over there and then seeing how it happened. It's kind of a sad thing the way that it went
Oh
down,
yeah.
unfortunately.
Well, I mean, being over there or not, like the sad part is all those guys had to get killed pulling out of there. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So I think that's the sad part. Of course, there's another sad part where the Taliban's more in control now. And honestly,
Yep.
who knows what's going on over there at this point. But obviously that's sad. But I think the more sad part is those guys and that gal had to get killed to get out of there.
Hmm.
Which, I mean, obviously, I'm sure you're on the same page. I don't agree with how it was done. I would have done it very differently.
Hmm.
But then that's getting into politics or whatever.
Yeah, the politics side of it, people can go all day
Yeah, yeah.
with, but just as a whole, like seeing that unfold, and granted,
Yeah, it was not great. But that being said, it doesn't make me feel, like anything I've done over there is any less than it was before. You know what I mean?
right,
I know some
absolutely.
guys kind of have that idea, like now
What was
what
it
I
for?
did means nothing because the Taliban's back in control or this or that, and other extremist groups are, popping
Hmm.
up and stuff like that. But I mean, you can only control what you can control, and then everything else you can only
Yep,
control how you react to it.
absolutely.
So I kind of have the feeling where I'm really proud of what I did when I was over there, and I got
Hmm.
a lot of really good experiences. And yeah, I can only do what I can do when I'm there. You know what I mean?
Right. So as you're talking earlier, it just kind of popped in my head, and I remember what I was going to say. You were saying that you were showed Black Hawk Down as one of those movies that got you into like, okay, I want to be a ranger.
Oh yeah, oh
How
yeah,
much does
yeah.
that actually like seeing that movie and how things like that are just Hollywood fantasizes it versus actually being a ranger? Was that something that was like, oh man, it's not quite like the movies, or no?
Well, I told you before this, and we've talked a little bit on here. I've been extremely fortunate in my, career with military and doing other stuff that I've gotten really good experiences. But I mean, obviously, Black Hawk Down makes it seem very insane the entire time.
Hmm.
But I don't know. It wasn't that far off, I guess.
Okay, cool. Okay.
Yeah, but that being said, I've never myself been in a Black Hawk Down scenario where you're out there for days and
Yep.
you've taken multiple casualties and all this crazy stuff, and I'm blessed that I haven't had to be a part of something like that
Mhm.
because that would be very tough to
Yeah,
be involved
absolutely.
in. But just the day-to-day like training aspect and what they train you for, and stuff with like helicopters and Humvees and stuff like that. I would
Hmm.
say that stuff's pretty on par.
Okay, yeah, because
Yeah.
I'm just wondering too, like this weekend, Top Gun came out and these movies
Yeah,
that they make, and
yeah.
how many people now are gonna want to be back in the Top Gun course and go through the Air Force and all that, and how great of recruiting videos they end up being for people. And then when they get there,
Oh,
like
dude, they're
you
the
hear so
best
many stories, it's like,
video.
wait, so when I get to Top Gun school, we're not gonna be playing volleyball on the beach and going out, and it's like, nope, that was definitely just Hollywood in there. So
Well, that being said, my fiance's, it's, you could consider her my fiance's sister, but she's not, but she's very close to their family.
yep.
Her husband, they just got married. I don't know if he's doing Top Gun, but he's doing something
Mhm.
with, he's a pilot.
Yep.
And I am sure there's plenty of time for volleyball and going out drinking.
There we go.
There's no doubt about that. Just like in Ranger Battalion, that's a huge part of your time is spent partying.
Yeah. And you got to watch too, if he hasn't already, watch for the stash to come out, because I know that's what
Oh
everybody's
yeah.
been doing, just the stash with the glasses now. It's like, oh
I'm
man.
sure I haven't I unfortunately I haven't gotten to meet him, but everybody's like, oh yeah, you guys get along so well. And I bet
Yeah.
he's got a mustache in the aviators.
He
Why not,
has to. You
right?
have to.
Yeah.
If you're not a pilot. So simple as
Yeah.
that.
Right.
Okay, so talk to me about the transition out, because I know for a lot of guys getting out of military, not knowing what to do after, that transition can be kind of hard. Was that something that
Mhm.
was somebody reached out to you, or you just figured out on your own?
Yeah, so I guess we'll talk about that kind of going back to the military time a little
Yeah.
bit. So yeah, I got my first trip done. That was really good, really, really awesome experiences that I got to partake in, which was great. And then basically real military life started, which is, you're doing your training stuff, you got admin stuff, and then we're going back and forth overseas. And I think about when I got into my second deployment, not
Hmm.
that I wasn't having a good time, but I knew that I was probably going to get out at the end of my 5 years.
Hmm.
And it's not that I don't know, it's not that I didn't want to keep doing it, but I'm like, all right, I'm getting really good experiences right here. But I almost kind of knew it wasn't like a lifelong thing for me.
Right.
And I was just also young. And then one of my main platoon sergeants back then, he said, you know, and it kind of stuck with me. He's like, Ranger Battalion and also other special operations units, I'm sure they're all similar, where they are very, very intense. And it can be very, very difficult to make that a career lifelong decision.
Hmm.
And doing it for a short 5 year stint, 8 year stint, whatever,
Yep.
is one thing, but then committing yourself to that for 20, 25, 30 years, that is a completely another level
Yeah.
of hardcore dedication.
Yep.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, yep, just kept doing the military thing, but I kind of knew I was going to get out, which
Hmm.
was kind of nice because then during all that 4.5 years I was at 275, I got to do, like we've talked about, 4 deployments and so many awesome training opportunities. And I got to really take all of it in. But then
Hmm.
also knowing that I was going to move on at some point.
Right.
So when the time came for me to get out, which was in May of 2015,
Okay.
it was just, I mean, it was kind of planned.
Hmm.
So I didn't have that hard of a time myself. I know a lot of guys have a hard time, but I think it's also a lot of guys could have a hard time when they get into these, whatever you want to call it, elite units or whatever. Like
Hmm.
when I going in, I knew I wanted to be a ranger. So I knew I wanted to do direct action missions and conduct whatever mission that whatever
Yep.
I've told us to do. That
Yep.
was my purpose. And I knew we were gonna have to do stuff that whatever, it would be tough for me. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But I knew that was my mission. And then I realized, all right, I know my mission is going to be to get out and I know I want to go to school. So then when the time
Okay.
came, I already had a plan in my head. This is what I'm doing. So
Yep.
transitioning out honestly wasn't very hard for me at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
And transitioning out, and you said going to school. Now, is this you went to school to pick right back up from where you ended up not going out at all in the beginning, or do you end up trying to go another path?
Yeah. So I ended up enrolling at University of Illinois in their kinesiology program, which is like the study of human movement.
Okay.
And also just growing up in the small town in Illinois, that's the team you root for, the Illini. And I always wanted to go to Illinois.
Yeah.
So that was really exciting that I got to go there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I picked right up on that, and then did really well in that. And then so in college, I did my first 2 years at University of Illinois,
Mm-hmm.
and then actually transferred to University of Colorado from my last 2 years. And then there I switched from kinesiology at Illinois to integrative physiology at University of Colorado, which is a little more sciencey, more of like a pre-med kind of
Okay.
degree. Yeah.
Okay, sweet. So what was that like too? I guess kind of going back, you brought it up again. Like you said, being in a small farm town, Illinois, and then going to the military, and then even coming back and then going to Colorado. Was going to Colorado kind of just because it was a better school, or was this something like I really haven't been to many places, or you just had a like desire to go to Colorado, or
Yeah.
what?
Yeah. Well, I guess, I left some parts out. So during my military time, I ended up doing a lot of like road trips on my own.
Okay.
So I once did like a whole month long trip from I started in like Seattle and went all the way down
Mhm.
Highway 1. You familiar with Highway 1?
Yep. Yep.
I went from there all the way down Highway 1 to San Diego, and then kicked over to the eastern part of California, and then went all the way up that border. So I got to go through Yosemite, Sequoia National Park,
Yeah.
Crater Lake in Oregon, all this crazy stuff. And
Okay.
then when I got out, I did like a 3-month long road trip where I would just camp or stay in my car. And
Dude,
then
that's awesome.
like all like the national parks in Montana, Wyoming, Utah,
Mm,
Colorado, freaking all of it.
that's
All of it.
awesome.
So I
Yeah.
had gotten those experiences, and even Washington State is a incredible state coming from Illinois,
Yep.
like we have Mount Rainier and all sorts of beautiful hikes and lakes and stuff you can go to. So that's basically what happened. Was my first 2 years at University of Illinois, incredible experience, not much out there, super hardcore party culture. You know how it is in
Okay.
the Midwest.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So then I was like, man, and then also the kinesiology row, not that it was easy, but I was getting very good grades, and I was taking like the 400 level classes
Okay.
my sophomore year, because I was like, it was like, nutrition for human performance and all this stuff. I'm like, I know this stuff already, I can do.
Hmm.
So I talked to the teachers, and they got me into those classes, and I was getting A's as a sophomore with all the seniors.
Okay. Yep. Yep.
Then I was like, all right, this program is great, but I think I want more. And then I was like, maybe I can get into this program in Colorado that's more sciencey, and it's
Hmm.
going to be a little more advanced. And then I could also live in Colorado because I know it's awesome out there.
Right.
So that's
Yeah.
what made me move to Colorado and do my last 2 years there.
Okay. Nice. Yeah. I totally get that because being from Detroit and Midwest area in Michigan, I I've been out to Colorado once in like eighth grade for a youth trip that I went on,
Yeah.
and still I have that desire to go out west and go see all that stuff. I haven't done it yet, but
Oh yeah. It's
it
awesome out here, man. It's like right now I'm looking out my window and I've got huge mountain peaks.
yeah, I know. I was talking to I don't know if you're familiar with John Barklow at all.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, so I was talking with him on the podcast last week or 2 weeks ago now, and same thing. He's out in Montana, and he's like sitting there
Oh
talking.
yeah.
He's like, "Yeah, I'm looking out the mountain range." I'm like, I'm looking at suburbs, like, oh
Yeah.
man, because he's from Ohio originally, he's in Cleveland area. So he's like, I get it, man. I was the same way growing up, and totally understand. But
Yeah, we got to get you out here in Utah.
yes, absolutely. And you got a black rifle. I'm jealous. You got a black rifle by you
Yeah,
now.
we actually shout out to Black Rifle Coffee Company in Spanish Fork.
Yes.
Brand new little shop they got. Super awesome. One of my cameraman's girlfriend actually works there. So
Okay, nice. Yeah, I've been following Neil and Reddy Gunner and all that from when he's been on their podcast before and sitting there.
yeah.
So I've been following them, and then saw they were doing Spanish Fork. So I've been seeing their process of going through and building. I'm just like, I'm waiting because my sister used to live out in Clarksville, Tennessee. So that was one of the first ones that got a black rifle
Oh, is it
coffee put
nice?
in. So I was like, Saw that go up. I'm like, we need one in Michigan, man. We have Selfridge out here that's
Oh, I
close
don't know
enough
if
to
that's gonna
me.
happen.
I doubt it. I doubt it. I know how Evan and all them are with being a little strategic on it, but you never know. One day if they keep growing like that.
I know they're
Um,
doing well, and I would just it's just nice to have if you want people get into politics of it, but Starbucks, I don't usually go there that often. Also because I feel like their prices have gotten a little too high.
mhm.
But then it's like I would much rather give my money to Black Rifle than Starbucks,
Yep.
you know?
I feel guilty now if I go anywhere else. I'm like, I need to support Black Rifle. Like I got their coffee subscription and all that. Like, do I really need to stop? So it'd be nice to have one. So when I am out, but
Yep.
I totally get that. And uh, kind of transitioning to this. So they're a great example of a company that's grown and that gives opportunity for veterans. With your
Mhm.
company, is that something that you guys ever see keep growing and give opportunities to have veterans join your crew?
Oh, we actually already have some.
Well, yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, so yeah, I've been doing these classes, private stuff, like I told you at the beginning, different
Hmm.
basic stuff all the way to advanced tactics kind of stuff for about a year now. And right now I've got two other Ranger guys on my team, a second battalion guy that I was in with, and a third battalion guy that's local. And he's
Okay.
also a firefighter and EMT. So he really takes control of our like medical courses and all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And then we just brought on a local law enforcement officer to help out with our pistol
Sweet.
and our CQB stuff.
Awesome.
So yeah, we're bringing on military guys,
Cool.
police guys, all sorts of stuff.
That's awesome. And I guess kind of going back, where did the idea and the name Tactical Cowboy Training Solutions
Yeah.
come from? Kind of explain that for the viewers. What in whole, because I know from seeing Instagram and looking you guys up and all that what it is, but kind of give your brief overview and where the idea came from.
Yes, sir. So my fiance is the one who thought of it originally.
Hmm.
But so long story short, right now I'm doing the private security stuff. So I was going back and forth with that abroad. That was going great. But then COVID happened and I was stateside. So there was no more going over there for a while, long
Yep.
time. And I was like, oh man, what am I going to do? Like my bank account was slowly starting to fill away. And ever since I got into the private security stuff, it was really awesome because when you're in the military, you're a team. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So all your performance is like team oriented. Of course, you've
Hmm.
got some individual stuff, but it's all about how the squad's doing, how your individual team's doing, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So, but then when I got into the private realm after I graduated college, it became about you. It's like you have to hit these standards. You need to know these tactics because you're going to be with a small group of guys or by yourself, and we're not going to hire you if you can't show us you can uphold these standards. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's when I really started getting into myself focusing on marksmanship, tactics, yada yada yada, and did that. Started doing the security. It's going really great, meeting all sorts of awesome dudes. Really love my job. Then it kind of ended for a while, and then we didn't
Hmm.
know. Nobody knew when it was going to start back.
Right.
So it was like a pressure creates diamonds kind of scenario. I was like, I want to start training people how to shoot because with the fitness stuff all throughout college and all throughout my military time, even like
Hmm.
I was the one, like in college, I had a whole like weightlifting team and we would go to like local weightlifting meets. It was really fun. And
Okay.
then in my military time, I was kind of looked to as a guy that would formulate our squad plan on our fitness stuff and all that kind of thing.
Hmm.
I've been teaching people and mentoring people for my whole life. And I was like, I can teach people how to shoot. Like, why
Yeah.
not? I was like, I'm feeling really confident in my skills. So I was like, how do I do this? Because I mean, I'm sure you can kind of get this idea from our social media and talking to me. I'm like I'm really friendly and I try to be the opposite of a hard ass. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
There's those military guys, those police guys, they're hardcore
Yep.
and you need to of course you are training for a horrible scenario, but we're going to get you ready so you can kill people. You need to be ready to shoot somebody in the face if they're coming at you and all this stuff, which is true. You need
Hmm.
to be ready for that. But I like to approach things from a more fun, outgoing, relaxed standpoint. because
Mm-hmm.
that's just how I live my life, positive mental attitude at all times,
Yep.
stuff like that. So I was like, how do I portray myself as, we're going to teach advanced stuff, but I also want it to be fun. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And there's a huge Western culture around here in Utah. And growing up, a lot of it was influenced by my grandparents, because namely my grandfather. He was a big time Western guy, into all things Western, hardcore country music fan. I am now too.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, And then my fiance is like, you should maybe, what about Tactical Cowboy? Because we're thinking, tactical something, because everybody has tactical in their name, right?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Not that you have to, but it's kind of cool. So, and I was like, well, is that too corny? And I talked to some buddies about it, but it ended up being she had the right idea, because it's fun,
Yep.
It's not, what could you think of? Whatever, hardcore tactical.
Yeah.
Hardcore.
It was one of the first things that caught my attention. I'm like, tactical cowboy. Okay, this is different than every
Yeah,
tactical hardcore, this, that. And I was like, okay,
exactly.
what's this going on? It caught my eye. It did.
Yeah, so it's unique, as you just noted, and it's fun. So it's not going to be intimidating to anybody that's new, and it's not going to be like I'm trying to say that I'm like the end all be all hardcore badass operator guy,
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel confident in my skills and confident in what I teach people, but I'm not out there trying to say that I'm going to make you into a Delta Force operator.
Right. Right.
Exactly. So the real name came from my fiance thought of it. And then I kind of linked it to my grandfather's influence on my life. Because,
Yeah.
he kind of gave me that love for everything Western, old cowboy movies, everything John Wayne, and
Mm-hmm.
all that kind of stuff. So
Yep.
that's where it came
Nice.
from.
Nice. Yeah, because I saw that and saw too your little photo shoot with the just seeing the cowboy boots with the gun in there and stuff. I'm like, yeah, this is it. I like the branding behind it. It's super cool.
Yeah,
Um,
it's just something different, and it's fun, and we're open to everybody. And yeah, it's
yeah.
awesome. We're having such a great time with it.
So when people go, is this like you guys have a place to go to train? Do you guys travel around, go other places? How can people, when they want to get linked up with you guys and get training?
Yeah, man. So I mean, we've got website, thetacticalcowboy.com, social media, like you said, at Tactical Cowboy 01. So that's how you can kind of see what we're doing. But most of our stuff is here in Utah. We have an indoor range here in Springville, Utah, Range Masters. Super awesome range. I also work there one day a week when I'm stateside, so that's cool.
Okay, nice.
But we use that for our indoor facility and our outdoor facility. We do a couple different spots around the area. That being said, it is looking like we're going to build our own range down south. So anybody listening
Nice.
to us in Utah, it's in the works that we'll have our own range where we can
Sweet.
have a really badass setup, an 800-yard range, a bunch of vehicles to shoot around, and a couple Connex buildings so you can be like shooting out of a window. And then
Yes.
like a standard
Yes.
100-yard range. Oh yeah, it's going to be sick.
That's sweet.
But
Yeah.
so we do stuff locally around here. We're building our own range. And yeah, I mean, we do it all over. We've done some classes in Colorado. My kind of like secondhand guy, or not secondhand guy, my number two, I guess you could say, is another Ranger guy I was in with, Justin Johnson. He's
Yep.
up in Washington State. So we're slowly getting a program up there built for him where we can do courses out there. And we've
Okay.
also done a couple courses in Colorado as well.
Nice.
So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's one
You one in
thing.
Michigan.
What's that? Have one in Michigan?
One in Michigan.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, no, that's one thing here that I've always since getting into this whole gun realm and self-preparedness, learning to shoot and be able to concealed carry responsibly and know your weapons and be comfortable doing that kind of stuff. There's really not that great of places to like I see all the YouTube videos where people will go and you can learn how to shoot in and around in the vehicle and how to clear buildings, and I'm like, man, there's nothing that's super great in this area.
In
We
Michigan,
need
yeah.
something not that I know of, not in the Metro Detroit area, at least. But yeah. So hopefully, one day you guys come out here, and that's
Oh
something.
yeah. Yeah, we're because in August I'm going to be visiting family in Illinois, which is
Okay, yeah,
just south of you guys, obviously. So maybe we'll
yeah,
have to think of something, get something put together.
yeah, that'd be sweet.
Fun.
Absolutely. And you guys, from what I've gathered too, like you said, have been hiring people. Don't just do just firearms.
Mhm.
How important is it to train on the uh, more medical side of things, of like stop the bleed classes and all that, and
Mhm.
kind of just explain that further for people, that because I think it is important that not only should you know how to carry, but or at least my point of view is to be like a warrior poet, you want to be able to be a warrior, but then also you still want to have that side that's a protector for people too.
Oh,
So kind of
exactly,
explain that.
exactly. Warrior Poet Society. I love John Lovell. He's a
Yes,
bad.
John Level's legit. He's the
I gotta go.
dude.
I gotta go meet him.
Yes.
But yeah. So how important is that? I think it's extremely important. I'm sure you've heard the saying before. It's like if you're going to be able to put holes in somebody, you got to know how to fix them too.
Hmm.
That whole thing. And so yeah, I think it's extremely important, and it's extremely simple, honestly. Like at this last training I was at, not to go too deep into the weeds of how to apply a tourniquet versus if you want to do like a chest seal, stuff like that. But simply applying a tourniquet or applying a chest seal to a wound in the thoracic cavity can easily extend somebody's life to get them to higher medical attention, you know?
Yep.
So I think it's really important. And there are basic, like one of our guys that came to our emergency medical stop the bleed class,
Hmm.
he just went to like a local first responder kind of thing in Salt Lake City. And he said it was really great, but they don't really talk about like massive hemorrhage stuff, like hardcore arterial bleeds at all. Like they didn't really go over tourniquets or anything like that. Mostly it was like
Hmm.
CPR and that kind of stuff, and
Right.
alerting authorities, which is obviously super important. But obviously, if somebody can't breathe, that's going to kill them pretty quickly too.
Right.
But a deep arterial cut is also going to kill you in about 3 minutes.
Yep.
So I think it's really important for people to know that knowledge, especially, I mean, as you could see, and I'm sure there's plenty of stories about it, people just go into the range and an accident happens. And
Yep.
yeah, if you get shot in the wrong place, you can bleed out in minutes, like we're talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, absolutely. That's like, I don't know if you know Kentucky ballistics at
Oh
all.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
put a thumb in it, man. Like,
That's
dude, so
well,
lucky.
I was taught that before that came out, but exactly. Basically, one of the things we teach in our Stop the Bleed class is if it's a whatever you want to call it, a limb or anything not in the thoracic cavity, as soon as you come up on it, plug the hole. You know what
Yep.
I mean, of course, before you put a tourniquet on, which is super important, or before you pack the wound, which is super important, the first thing you could do is maybe plug the hole with your finger, just like he did.
Yeah. Yeah,
And I've actually
absolutely.
gotten to experience that a couple different times on live animals. And you'd be surprised on how easy it is to, you see the artery just spurting out blood, and you can just pinch it against the bone.
Hmm.
You're like, oh man, the bleeding stopped. That's sick. Now, of course, I got to do a lot of other things. I got to immediately
Right.
go to tourniquet, then I got to work from there. But it's surprisingly simple, depending on the situation.
Right. Right.
And thankfully, it worked out for Kentucky Ballistics, but same thing.
Yeah.
Instead of, I mean, you're not going to be able to put a tourniquet in this situation in your neck.
No, no, that would not
But
be a
yeah,
good
what
mistake.
else are you going to do but plug the hole? So he plugged it immediately and it saved his life.
Yeah, for sure. Going back to, I know you kind of said grew up in a family where it wasn't necessarily not into guns, but I feel like we kind of are missing this part there where getting comfortable shooting and all that in the military was, how different of a transition was that, going from maybe not having them or not shooting to, okay, this is in my hand, and actually learning? Are you like a major gun nuts where you like to break things down and know the internals, or is it just the more so the side of just learning how to shoot and make sure that it's operating correctly?
Like, what did they teach us in the military?
Kind of.
Or what am I do? What do
Yeah,
I do now?
kind of. I guess let's just start with going from not shooting to the first time shooting in the
Yeah.
military, that transition first.
Yeah. So I've heard this. Well, I was told from a lot of people because I'd never shot a gun before I went in the military. Now I
Okay,
was actually
that's
told
what I
by,
was trying to ask.
yeah, I was told by a lot of people that was a really good thing. Because then I get to my first experience with it is
Mhm.
what they want me to learn. And in
Right.
general, what the military teaches, what the army teaches is probably a pretty good way to go about it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, it was one of those things, like I was saying, that's kind of mental stressors that they give you. Like in the ranger selection, same thing in basic training. It's like, all right, you're in there, you're physically stressed, you're probably tired, whatever. Here, we got to learn about the M4, and they teach you everything. They break it down. You learn all the internals. You learn how to shoot it. And then you go to the range, you actually shoot it. That being said, I am much better of a shooter now than I was when I was in the military. That's for sure. Just because now I put it on myself. Like, it's my responsibility to be extremely capable with the weapons I use for what I teach people and when I do the private stuff. Because in the military, it's they're training you up for, like I said, your squad standards or whatever. And yeah, I never, like when I was in the military, I never went out shooting on my own because I mean, you go shooting plenty when you're at Ranger Battalion, or I'm sure it's similar with other special operations units. So. But it was good. I think I wasn't necessarily nervous because it's baby steps. It's weeks of practice. It's nonstop. They're watching you. They're making sure you do it correctly, And I trusted who was teaching me the information. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it wasn't too hard of a transition. Of course, I was nervous.
Yeah, dude, that first time shooting a gun, because I didn't shoot one until I was 20, 19,
yeah.
Something like that. So probably around the same age as you. And although this was just with buddies in the backyard and up north where you could just shoot at the woods, like so it was a little, at least it was chill about it. But
that's a totally different scenario where I was given weeks of practice and this is how this works, and you understand how the weapon works and all the internals, and then they teach you how ballistics works and all sorts of crazy stuff. Then you start shooting. So I had a lot more familiarization than, for example, like you or a lot of people got to.
It was all set up, handed to me, and okay, don't point at anyone. If you pull the trigger, it's going off. And I was like, all right. And even after that experience, it's like, okay, I wasn't too thrilled. I was just like, yeah, it is what it is. Like it was cool, but I didn't shoot for probably another year after. But in between that time, I kind of took upon myself finding like John Lovell and those guys on YouTube, and
he's awesome.
Watching all these videos, I'm like, oh, if I would have held that and not put my hand down here, it wouldn't have recoiled as much. Because I mean, that you see all the movies and all that, and now when I watch stuff, it's like I got to kind of take myself out of like trigger discipline. Your fingers on the trigger. That's not okay. Just little things. But yeah, that's kind of been different for me, is self-teaching. And once I did that, like when I went and got my first handgun, it was something that, okay, I'm going to learn how to actually break this down, take it apart before I even put any ammunition into this thing, take it to the range, like really learn what is this going to do and understand. Once you learn it too, it's like, okay, because one of my fears, like many people, was this gun's just going to go off. What do you mean? It's in a holster. Like then understanding, no, if you get the trigger in there, you get the right kind of holster where you can't get in and pull the trigger. It's a tool. It's a tool at the end of the day, and you got to understand how to use that.
That's for a lot of our, newer shooter courses or a lot of private stuff we do. Like that's the exact kind of thing we go over. And we also I think we do it. I mean, of course, I'm going to say we do it the best, but I think we do it in a really, really good way where we bring in that fun, relaxed environment. You know what I mean? I have been to, when I first got out and then I was at University of Illinois, I went to a range and I was familiar with military style weapons, M4s. And then I was mostly a machine gunner my entire Ranger career, which was really awesome. But obviously you're not going to shoot machine guns at like a local range in Illinois.
No, definitely not Illinois.
I was confident in my shooting pretty decently, And literally, I remember taking my girlfriend at the time to the range, and this dude at the range, he was like, all right, we're like, hey, we're going to use our range. I had an AR and a Glock 17. And I'm thinking, I've never been to a range. Well, not in the military. I'm like, we're just going to show up and give him some money and go shoot,
Yeah.
And we get in there, and then you got to watch your video. And they're, how a lot of ranges are, they're not very friendly. You got to shoot, you got to watch your video so you can be blessed off. And I'm like, okay, this is kind of sucks. And then you get into the range, and now this guy has to watch us shoot to make sure we're safe with it. And he was not kind at all. And he's just like looking over your shoulder. And like, for me, it was fine because whatever, I'm like, all right, I
Knew
know
what
what
you're
I'm doing.
doing. Yeah.
But for my girlfriend at the time, it was not that great for her. The guy was like super intimidating.
Yeah.
And when not that he was being rude, but he wasn't being kind. He wasn't being kind.
There is a difference.
I'm sure
Yes.
you've seen this, and
Oh
I
yeah.
know a lot of people listening have experienced this exact same thing. And like, that's just one thing we completely stay away from at Tactical Cowboy. We're all about, yeah, we're going to go over safety, and that's a serious discussion, of course,
Yeah.
but we're going to have fun with it. You know what I mean? And I feel like
Mm-hmm.
people with an enjoyable, friendly learning environment, they learn so much faster. They make leaps and
100%.
bounds past the instructor or whatever that's kind of being rude to you. And he's like, this is how it has to be done. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one thing too. Like even just going to a range in general, if you're not lucky enough to have property or be able to be in that more
Mhm.
relaxed environment. I mean, when I finally went and took my concealed carry class, like all those people in there were some guys that had some guns, and man, did they kick. And I was like, oh, okay. Like
Yeah.
some people, I could tell some people in the class were genuinely like, nope, want nothing to do with this. And like I took my mom shooting for the first time a year, like well, actually probably 2 years ago. Took her and she was all nervous about it. I'm like, look, we're just gonna keep it nice and chill. We'll go over all
Mhm.
this stuff. And it was just, it took a little while, but it was like, all right, we're just gonna sit at home and we're gonna learn how do you take the magazine out and just
That's
little
perfect.
little things. Okay, she's like, okay, that makes sense. Well, how would you break down the slide and clean it? And once she got that and got in there, then it's like, oh, because the first shot's always like you just don't quite know what to expect. But as soon as she shot it, she shoots, she turns around and she's just grinning in her ear. I'm like, fun? She's like, okay, yeah, this is kind of fun. And I was like, all right.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah,
Oh
I
yeah,
definitely
that's another reason why I'm sure you've seen it on my social media and it's all over the website. We refer to ourselves as mentors, not instructors.
yep.
And I actually got that from, are you familiar with Pat McNamara?
It sounds familiar.
He
Maybe.
does a lot of stuff on social media, basic
I've
dude stuff.
probably seen it's the name sounds familiar for whatever reason. I've probably seen them.
Yeah, he's a complete badass dude, Delta Force guy, a bunch of experience. And I was reading his book, Tactical Applications of Practical Shooting.
Okay.
Anybody listening, highly recommend this book. It's very short, but it's very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
And he talks in that book how I got this from him. So I got to give him respect for it.
Yep.
He said in that book, he refers to himself as a mentor over an instructor because that term instructor, it's I'm going to instruct you and this is the way you're going to do it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Versus the way we like to do things. It's very relaxed. I actually show people multiple different grips, for example, for their pistol. Because
Mm-hmm.
I actually just changed my grip in the last year to
Okay.
something that not a lot of people do. But so I show people what I'm doing now, what I used to do, and then also I have my other fellow mentors show them what they do. And we're just
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, guys, this is not one size fits all. Different things work for different people. Everybody's anatomy is different, and everybody's got different purposes too. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like for instance, my grip, I go really, really high in the slide, and I don't know if people will see this
Yeah.
video.
Yep. They can see it on
Yeah,
YouTube.
this is my offhand grip. I have a really harsh angle, I guess you could say, to
Mm-hmm.
really optimize my leverage on the pistol.
Yep.
And I'm up on the slide. I'm basically like half of my hand is on the slide
Yep.
of the
That's how
pistol.
I shoot too.
So that works great with a stock Glock. I was shooting with one of my SF buddies actually yesterday, and he
Mhm.
had some sort of like $2,000 shadow systems. The thing was crazy.
Those are
No
nice.
muzzle rise at all. It's got a comp on it. I pick it up, I go to shoot, and it doesn't cycle because the slide is
The
so light.
slide. Mm.
That grip doesn't work for that gun. So that's a
Okay.
perfect example of it's all about what tools you're using and what works for you.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
What are, I guess, kind of talking about the shadow systems in the Glock? What is your go-to handgun? What's your favorite?
So my go-to handgun, what I carry is, well, a Glock 19 versus a Glock 17.
Yes. Yep.
Is it really that much different of a gun? No. The
No.
Glock 19 is a little shorter barrel, a little shorter grip. So
Hmm.
that's all I have. I've got two 17s and one 19. and
Okay.
I have them both stock. I've got one 17 with an RMR on it, but everything else about it is
No
completely
stock.
stock. And that's just what I shoot, because in the mill, that's what I used. In the private security realm, that's what I use. And yeah, I've learned that trigger so well that even though it's a
Same.
stock trigger,
Yep.
I prefer a stock trigger for a Glock at least, because I'm sure you know about like the wall of the trigger, all this
Yep.
kind of stuff.
Trigger well. Yep.
I like to hang out on that wall, and I like that it's not a tough wall to get through, but it's not, you know how some pistols are extremely light.
Light
All I
trigger.
have to do
Yeah.
is that, and then
And
boom, the gun goes off. I like that stock Glock because I can hold on that wall. And if I'm super amped up in a real life situation, which I'm going to be, I can have
yeah,
confidence. I can hang on at that wall without breaking through it. You know what I mean?
yeah, it makes sense.
And for instance, I like a stock Glock because I recently had the opportunity to use an old Gen 4 Glock. I don't know how many guys have used this Glock before me. It's old. Thousands of rounds have been through this gun. I got to use it for 2 months recently. It's one of my old pistols. I shot, no, I guess I did a lot of training with it for 2 months, but long story short, I put about 6,000 rounds through it. Didn't even clean it once.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
they're
Glocks
just
are
awesome,
definitely
dude.
built different.
I don't want to be there's
Glock
million different
fanboy.
manufacturers out there, but see, I am a Glock fanboy, but I guess I'm a stock Glock fanboy.
There
Where
is
I
a
think
difference
a
between the
lot of
Gucci
Glock
Glock.
fanboys, yeah, a lot of Glock fanboys, they get on to the crazy high speed stuff. I just keep it stock and I run it like
Yeah.
that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what my first gun was, and that I use is Gen 4 Glock 19.
Nice,
Though
nice.
at the time that was just after, or COVID was just hitting, and then all the riots that were going on in that summer, and everybody buying guns. And of course, I was like, man, I just turned 21. This isn't fair. Like I planned on getting one, but I really had to speed it up, and it was like way overpaid for it. But
What'd you
it's the
pay
same
for it?
thing.
I'm just curious.
It was like probably like 820 at the time
For
for,
a stock 19?
yes.
What? Oh my gosh.
But
That's
and it was
insane.
literally the only one that I could find. And I was looking, originally I was going to get a CZ P10C, but that nobody had that anywhere.
Yeah, that'll be tougher to find.
Yeah, nobody had it. And this was the only one in basically all of Michigan that I could find. I was calling and they're like, yes, we've got one. And I was like, well, and
Well, it was a
especially
good
the
purchase.
area we're in, it was like, it's definitely like, yes, I way overpaid for it. And I know that now, but at the
Yep.
time we didn't have anything in the house, and with all the riots going on and being
Mm-hmm.
in Detroit area where you're hearing stuff, and it was like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and that's really kind of woke me up, and kind of more so this idea of the forging roots was one of the first things. I was like, okay, I need to be able to take care of myself and protect myself, but protect my family, protect my loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and just kind of getting into space and learning all this stuff and finding guys like you that are out there and sharing this and having classes and courses. And it's super important. At least I feel it is important for
Oh
people.
yeah.
And I know
For sure, for sure.
that's one
And I
thing.
mean, yeah, you paid a hefty price for that pistol, but
Yes.
that being said, like we talked about, it is extremely worth it. And that pistol is gonna last you your entire life. You know what
Oh,
I mean?
I'll never sell it.
Exactly.
It was the first one too. And
Nice.
it didn't help either that it was Navy SEAL Foundation edition or something. Cause
Oh, okay.
so
Yeah, a
that
bit
had a
different.
bit to do with it too. And they're like, it's the only one we've got. I'm like, well, I guess I'll take it, which it is kind of cool. It's got the
Yeah.
little trade-in on it, but I don't like carrying it because it's like I'm not Navy SEAL. And like, I don't want
Hilarious.
to be one of those guys who are like, oh, really? Like, come on, bro. So it's
That's
more so
crazy.
just fun shooting, but
Yeah. I bet it shoots 10% better though.
I hope so. For that price, it better.
Yeah,
Um,
right. Yeah, with firearms, a lot of guys are huge collectors, like they've got four different ARs and blah, 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 blah.
yeah.
I'm more along the lines of I have a couple pistols, but I've got one AR, one AK, one long gun, and one, whatever you want to call it, suppressed 300 blackout setup. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because I'm all about buying one thing that I know is actually going to work
Yeah.
and then getting really, really good with it. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So like Glock, like my ARs are like Daniel Defense,
Yep.
and
Yep.
like I just want to know the damn thing's going to work. I don't need 4 of them. I need one that's going to work.
One that's going to be have you seen at all at SHOT Show this year Zero Delta's the one gun that they came out with?
No.
It's okay, so this thing's, I don't know how reliable or anything is. They were just showing prototypes, and but it's called the one because they're same thing. They're like, well, if you only want to purchase the one gun, it is the frame basic, like it's their own frame, but it's kind of like a Glock. You can either get a 17 size or 19 size compact full or whatever, but it completely breaks down and it comes as a pistol, and you could even just buy the frame if you already have a Glock slide. It'll transfer over. But if you can get the whole gun, but they showed too that they have an upper, and the way that they do it, it completely transfers over to you can have it as a pistol or take that whole thing down, break it down to just the handle, and now you have an AR.
That's funny. That's crazy.
It was I don't know how reliable or how good that thing is, but I saw it. I was like, that's pretty interesting. I have not seen anything like that before.
How much was it?
Well, they didn't have the price for the upper receiver for that, but the lower was, I think if you just wanted the frame, it was only like somewhere from 170 to 2, somewhere around there. I can't remember off the top of my head. So but if that's just lower, or you could get the whole gun with the slide and all the inners and all that for like 500-600. So it really wasn't
not that bad.
But
it's just it's one of those funny things that I always come across when people come in the gun store, because we've got a million different makes and models, and everybody buys their own pistol or whatever. And it's all these companies, they're always modeling like a lot of the stuff they do around what Glock does. And they're like, oh, should I get this? Should I get that? I'm like, dude, they're all trying to copy just what Glock does anyways. Why don't you just get the Glock?
Just get the Glock. Yeah. yeah. That was the thing though. I was like, okay, well, that's pretty different. If you can just take your pistol, and I forget how, because everyone's like, well, then legally you're transferring, or it's turning into a pistol into a rifle, and that's illegal or something. But whatever it was, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was all legal on the paperwork or something. I was like,
yeah.
Just for the sheer fact that that's just kind of a cool gun. Just
to
be able to switch that over, like.
Yeah, that being said, as you know, you could take a stock pistol and put it in somebody's hands, and then you could take a $4,000 staccato or something, put in another guy's hands, and the guy with training and experience and knows how to shoot a pistol, no matter which one it is, he's going to shoot it better than the other guy any day. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I know too, one thing seeing on your Instagram, and even like you were saying today that you're working out, and how that's been a big part of your life. Is that something that you train on still with people too through what you guys do? Do you do just like fitness training as well, or no?
So we have a little bit of that going on right now, with all the focus on like trying to build the company from a firearms aspect. Like that's really the main focus. I'm helping out a lady right now. She's getting into like weightlifting competitions and stuff.
Yep.
And I've had a couple people where I help them out just for their, I guess you could say, tactical fitness. Like one of the guys, he's trying to go to SFAS and stuff, so I've been helping him out. But it hasn't been a huge, originally that was one of my main goals, but then it morphed into like hardcore on firearms and tactics. But my fiance, actually, she's in physical therapy school right now.
Okay.
So she's going to be finishing that up, and our plan is to eventually I've got Tactical Cowboy Training Solutions, and we're doing all sorts of cool basic farm stuff and then super cool tactical stuff. And eventually we'll have another business where we've got our strength conditioning, we've got our physical therapy, all that. So we've actually kind of pushed that down the road into, we're going to focus on that, but in a completely separate endeavor.
Okay, sweet. Yeah. What kind of workouts do you do? Do you do CrossFit? Because it looks like somewhat of what you do on Instagram.
Yeah. So before I went in, there's a whole, exercise, it's like a whole journey for a lot of people, especially me. Like I've been into it since I've been like 16. So originally I started off with, being, football in high school, then did a little bit of wrestling in high school too. Basic like cardio and bodybuilding type stuff. And then I got in the military where it becomes a lot of cardio and a lot of functional strength. But then I kind of started getting introduced to kind of like the CrossFit style realm. If people in here are listening and were into it back then, like the 4 Horsemen program, all these kind of like crazy hardcore probably 2 hardcore workout programs that like military guys were doing back then.
Mm-hmm.
But so kind of get into the CrossFit world, got into doing some CrossFit competitions, and I got really into that. And then
Okay.
towards the end of my military career, I started getting into Olympic weightlifting hardcore. Do you know about that kind of stuff?
I do. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah, like
too kind of went
snatch.
through the snatches, clean and jerks, all that stuff.
Yep,
Yep, yep.
exactly. So I got hardcore into that. And then my entire college career was me competing in that at the local and then going to some national meets. And then at University of Illinois and at University of Colorado, I started like their weightlifting teams. And
Okay.
then we would, like I was saying, we'd go to the competitions and stuff. And then getting out of college, then I got into the private security realm. Now we had another like military style physical test that you had to achieve. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, I was like, I want to max this thing out. I want to get perfect scores and everything. So then I got back into the functional fitness realm. And then that kind of leads me to where I'm today, where I do CrossFit style stuff. Lately, I've been doing a lot of preparing for tactical games. I'm doing one of those in August. Have you heard of that?
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I follow that on Instagram. I've seen that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so me
Sweet.
and one of my Marine buddies, we're going to do that team tactical games in late August in West Virginia.
Okay.
And
Sweet, dude.
I don't count my chickens before they hatch, but we're training hard, so we're
Cool.
coming for
I was gonna
it.
say I follow. I don't know if you know Jacob Hepner at all.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. He's
yeah.
a big time CrossFit guy now. He's getting into it.
Yeah, I followed him back when he was doing CrossFit. My buddy that I went to high school with, that's actually I think it's his cousin. So
Hmm.
I've been following him for years, went back when he's doing just
Nice.
CrossFit and
Yeah,
then
me
seeing this.
too.
And then I was like, what's this tactical games? And then going back and seeing this, I'm like, okay, so yeah, I have to watch out for you and doing that because that's pretty sweet, dude.
Oh yeah, but yeah. So I do training for that, and then also, have you heard of Matt Frazier? Big CrossFit guy.
Yes. Yeah. I
Everybody.
was super into CrossFit like back in
Oh,
2012 when I first got it's the first time I like sat down and heard of it and then watched the game. So I used to watch the games almost every year. When Matt Frazier was done, it was kind of last year that I stopped watching the games. But that
hmm.
whole Rich Froning era and then into
Oh
Frazier,
yeah.
I was all into that, dude. Watching
I'll
it.
always be a Froning guy.
Dude, Rich
Frazier's
Froning's the
a
man.
badass, but
I don't have it with me, but my hat, it's downstairs. I have the little Mayhem Freedom hat down there.
nice,
Yeah, I
nice.
definitely.
But yeah, actually, I just recently was doing Matt Frazier's program, Hard Work Pays Off,
Okay.
and I've done a lot of different workout programs, CrossFit style stuff, military style stuff, bodybuilding style stuff, weightlifting specific,
Mhm.
and I would have to say it is the best programming I've ever done.
Okay.
Quick shout out to Hard Work Pays Off. Not that I'm affiliated
Yeah.
with them all. I give
Yeah,
him
no,
money,
shout it out. Yeah, dude.
but I was doing his like regular program or whatever,
Hmm.
and it's really, really well thought out programming. A lot of strength movements, a lot of functional movements, and a lot of low impact cardio. Which I
Okay.
was doing that for about like 4 or 5 months, and that really got to me, really got me to where I have a really nice base. But then to focus on tactical games, obviously you got to do stuff with your plate carrier on like all the time.
Yep.
So I actually just shifted. Oh, you still there?
I'm still there.
Oh
Yeah,
no,
I can,
Matt, can you hear me?
I can. We're there.
Oh,
I can see you.
all
We're
right,
good.
cool.
Cool. I
Yeah, we're
can
good.
edit that. So just pick right back up.
So I actually just shifted my subscription to Frazier from his regular program to his sweat program. I don't
Okay.
know if you've heard much about that, but it's
Nope.
45 minutes long. And since you're familiar with CrossFit, you'll get what I'm saying. Literally just 45 minutes of basically EMOMs, and you get like
Yep.
3 to 5 minutes of rest amongst the 45 minutes. So I've been doing that
Okay.
with my plate carrier on. And he'll have you doing freaking mountain climbers and running and burpee box jump overs and kettlebell swings and
Hmm.
farmer carries. And it's just a lot of really good work. So yeah, I'm doing the Frazier sweat program combined with my own cardio and combined with my own strength training. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's something I've been trying to get back into is just the fitness in general. Back in high school, doing football, doing cardio through that. And then my sophomore year, we somebody at our school's dad opened a CrossFit gym. So then they're like, well, why don't the football team, you guys after that go do that. So that's when I kind of got into
Awesome.
CrossFit, doing all that stuff and do the competing. And then after high school, went off to college and didn't quite keep up with the working out then, and
Hmm.
went through some anxiety and stuff, and just put it on the back burner and really haven't been giving it the full effort that I need to. So it's like, no, I need to get back into it. But now that I've gotten into the hunting stuff and eventually one day doing an elk hunt, I know going up in the mountains, that's not easy work just to do that kind of stuff. So it's like finding that motivation to keep the working out, because once he's, or at least for me, like that's something you've always done. I know when I was doing it, because I remember the first time when I was a kid, just was kind of super weak. Remember getting my first push up, and then I remember doing the CrossFit. I'm like, wait, I can do like 5 pull-ups strict, like no
Yeah.
stop. Like this is sweet. But trying to get back to that, because at my heaviest I got up to like 290, and trying to get
Dang,
back down
wow.
now. Yeah, so that was my heaviest, and now working my way down and trying to find the right program, because right now, like I don't have the gym or all that, and trying to find that stuff. Like,
Dude, I would for sure look into this hard work pays off sweat
yeah,
program, because
okay,
it's designed if you don't have equipment, so
hmm,
you can be able to do it no problem. It's awesome.
yeah, I'll have to check that out, because that's definitely something going for, like even just for the fact of going into the mountains, but also just everyday life. Like that's one
Oh,
thing I liked about CrossFit is I don't need to be like the biggest or the jacked or anything. I just want to be able to be functional throughout my whole life and not
mhm.
be that person that can't like do something, especially like eventually having kids one day. You don't want to be that dad that can't go out on a trip because you're physically not able to go play ball or whatever, with the kids. So,
Yeah. Yeah, one thing also on that physical fitness point, it's so important not only for the hunting or the tactical stuff or whatever you want to call it.
yep.
It's just like you're saying, it's so important for your just overall body and mind. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, gosh, just making that like that's part of my life. It's just what I do ever since like 16 years old. I work out almost every day, and it just
Yep.
puts you in so much better of a mental state. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the
That's
mental aspect definitely does change. You
oh
feel
yeah.
good. That whole feel good, look good thing, it really is true,
Mhm.
because it does something. I mean, even chemically, like I think the endorphins and all that it
Oh,
releases,
100%.
100% helps.
Mhm. Yeah, it's something I really stress with all of our clients. Like, I'm not making them do it, of course,
Hmm.
but we have some people, like some are in more shape than others, or in better shape than others, I guess you could say. And it's just so vital to keep yourself healthy because,
Yep.
a lot of guys, maybe some guys are listening to this, like, oh, I want to be preparedness guy, whatever, I guess people
Hmm.
like that. But then they forget that physical fitness aspect.
Yep.
And if you're not physically fit, like you're not going to be an asset. Let's just be real. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
No, you're gonna be a liability to the team, and that's like
Mhm.
for me, it's in the back of my mind. I'm like, kind of like the whole idea of, yeah, well, I went through buds, but I didn't pass, and just being like, yeah, I have all this
Yeah.
stuff to be prepared, but I didn't train, and I didn't. Like, when the time comes, God forbid anything happened, when you actually need
Oh
those
no.
assets. Oh, did it pause again?
Hmm.
You there? I can see it
Yep.
just keeps pausing occasionally.
You're good. You're good. Anyway,
All
so you
right.
said I went through buds, but
Yeah, so it's kind of like people saying I've gone through buds, but I didn't finish. Same concept as, I bought all the different stuff. I bought all the gear. I watched all the videos, but
mhm,
I didn't prepare. I didn't learn to use those tools. I didn't actually apply myself. And now when the time comes, you
mhm.
can't perform. Like,
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
forget. I mean, a lot of people have said it, but I just recently heard it on something saying you should, or actually this book right here, Comfort Crisis, reading through it
Nice.
and saying that you should be preparing and training as hard as you can. So when you're doing, like, if you're going to do a marathon and you're training by running 50 miles, when you do that 25 miles, that's a breeze. You
Yep.
want to train
Exactly.
harder. So when it does happen, it's like, oh, I've trained way worse.
Oh
This is
yeah.
nothing when the actual application comes. So,
Exactly. And a quick little note to that, nothing to say like anybody who ever failed any selection or anything, nothing against them at all.
no, no, yeah,
Just want to
sure.
add that in, add that in.
You say
Total
just to get
respect.
there and do it is
Exactly.
a feat in and
Exactly.
of itself.
Nothing but respect and love for anybody that does anything military, law enforcement, whatever, or honestly, anybody that just puts themselves in a situation where they could fail. Because that kind of works into that comfort crisis is
Yep.
many people, buds, rasp, just going to the gym. They don't want to put themselves in an uncomfortable situation, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we live in a digital era and where people can be sitting at home and be comfortable, and that's kind of what this whole thing is. This guy
Oh
ends
yeah.
up going out 30, he never done any backpacking, goes 30 days straight, and I think it's
Nice.
Colorado, and with some guys, and just the whole comfort that he was talking about, him and his girlfriend at the time, now wife, they were sitting there, went on, they're like all excited about this trip that they're going on, planned camping for a week. 2.5 hours in, they're like, got bored. Like, wait,
Oh
I don't know.
yeah.
Like, what do we talk about? We don't have our phones or entertainment, and just it was uncomfortable, and learning to be uncomfortable. It's definitely a mindset change that has to happen, and
Oh yeah.
people need to do more of, I feel.
Yes. On that note, I think, and I've also been told by other people that knew me when I was young versus they see where I am now. It's one of those things where you got to just do those small little victories of getting uncomfortable and overcoming it.
Hmm.
I can remember being, 16, trying to go like, oh yeah, I'm going to go work out in the high school gym. And we had a lot of big, strong dudes. And I remember
Hmm.
the first time I tried to bench 135, like I let it dropped it on my face.
Yep. Yeah.
But you got to get in there and get over it. You know what I mean? And then, I've had a lot of experiences. Like I said, like I lost my father when I was a young man
Hmm.
and then never knew my mother. And I was in like high school and stuff. I was never the popular guy. I was never the athletic stud. I tried, but I never like achieved greatness and that kind of stuff. So I knew I had felt many, many, many failures and,
Hmm.
hard times, I guess you could say, or whatever.
Yeah.
But I didn't let it stop me. I kept trying. And
Hmm.
that's why now, way after the fact, like I still talk to my original recruiter, Dave Martin. That's what he told me. He's like, I could see that was in you, and I could see you weren't like the star and you weren't the best, but you always tried really, really hard. And
Yeah.
that's why he pushed me to like try to go for Ranger Battalion.
Hmm.
Saying that was what he noticed is this kid has met failure and has met disparity or whatever you want to call it, and he's
Yep.
pushed through it. And going way back to our conversation, like the military stuff, the mental aspect, that's kind of what you need.
Hmm.
Like, you got to be okay with getting uncomfortable, and sometimes you're going to fail, but you got to push through it and risk it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. John Barklow and I, that's what we talked about in podcasts. So that'll be coming out next week. We were saying how like, because he's the one that recommended that book, Comfort Crisis, and they were saying in the book too that they pulled like 2,500 people, and they talked to people from, it was half men, half women, and everyone in between. They just represented America, rich, poor, didn't matter. And they asked them questions on, have you been through difficulties, or were something in your life where you've lost a loved one, or you failed
Mhm.
at trying a business, or so on and so forth, just things. And then they had those people that had been through difficulties and have failed in life versus people that had lived pretty comfortably and didn't really have that. Then they said, okay, now take this bucket of ice and just put your hand in it. And the percentage of people that had failed in life and answered to those questions was significantly more. I forget the percentage exactly, but able to keep their hand in the water longer, of the ice cold water, just because it's like,
Oh
well,
yeah.
they've been through failure, they've embraced the suck, as people say, and were able to push through. And that, I feel, and that's something that can be learned. And that's like the Fortune Roots,
Mhm.
is understanding, like, yes, some people get to places that they're at, but I mean, how many successful people do you look at and you talk to and they're like, they don't get where they're at just because I mean, there are one-offs, people do get lucky, but
Mhm.
usually 99% of the time there's a story of, well, before this business or this thing, I failed at this first, I failed at this. And
Mhm.
it's that slow success over time, that kind of snowball effects. And you do that, and I mean, you become unstoppable in just the mindset.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, there's no doubt about it. And so many things like physical fitness is like a really nice, I don't want to say it's easy, but for me it's easy, but for a lot of people it's not. But it's a really good way for people to break through that
Hmm.
uncomfortability barrier. You know what I mean? And then
Absolutely.
they get going with that. And then they're like, oh man, they get some confidence. Like, yeah, I have a solid workout routine. Like you said, look good, feel good. Maybe now they have the confidence to get uncomfortable and get out of a career they don't like. You know what I mean? Something
Right.
like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to be respectful of your time that you've given me. I appreciate it so much. You coming on and talking with me. Go ahead and shout out again. I know we said it earlier, but just kind of where people can reach you if they made it this point in the video, and just shout out Tactical Cowboy.
All right, dude. Yeah, so like like we talked about, Tactical Cowboy Training Solutions been going strong for a little over a year now, based out of Utah. Website thetacticalcowboy.com, pretty easy to remember.
Yep.
Social media at Tactical Cowboy 01. And yeah, we got a lot of really good stuff going. Like we talked about, bringing other special operations veterans on, bringing other law enforcement guys to help us. We got our medical guys. They're really awesome. Hopefully going to be building our own range soon.
Yes,
Working
absolutely.
with a local guy, one of my LE guy. He's also trying to start a clothing company called Responder Co.
Okay.
And
Cool.
we're going to do all the Tactical Cowboy and all the apparel with that through Responder Co. And then we're going to figure out something, but it's going to be a certain portion of the proceeds are going to go to, veterans organizations, police organizations, firefighter stuff, VFW, all sorts of stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I guess if I wanted to leave one last message, I would just say, like we talked about, try and get uncomfortable.
Yep.
Because it sucks. And I've failed so many times in my life. I had failures in high school, failures in my military career. But if you just keep pushing, it ends up making you stronger. You know what I mean? And oh man, life sucks sometimes.
Absolutely.
But yeah, you gotta learn how to push through. And once you break through those barriers, it gets easier and easier and easier. And then eventually you're just numb to all the negativity, and you can just be successful, hopefully.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Devin, for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, dude, super awesome.